Well, hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today, following on from the interior clean on the Giulia, I thought I'd give the outside a jolly good seeing to. Thanks to the winter roads here in the UK, it's covered in salt and grit and dirt and road film, and I want to get this thing looking good again as soon as possible. So the wheels are going to need some serious attention to get them looking good, and I've got to be really careful not to damage the paint, taking off all the grit and salt. So I'd like to talk you through how I'm going to do it. Okay, so let's talk about the process down here. Starting out with the wheel cleaner, which I mix up with water in a little spray bottle, and mix it up with one of these. It's a nice microfiber wheel brush. The next step is I tend to use a little bit of snow foam and water while I'm brushing the tyres, just to build up a bit of a foaminess. After that, give them a rinse and move on to Touchless. Now this stuff is a bit of a wonder product as a pre-wash. Don't use it like a snow foam. We're talking about maybe 0.5% dilution is enough to be able to get a really good lifting of all the traffic film off the car. Give that a hose down and then move on to a traditional bucket and mitt wash. So nothing special. One of these sort of microfiber type wash mitts is absolutely fine. Then give the car a rinse down. And then for the finishing touch, a bit of Meguiars Ceramic Wax spray. Now this stuff is really good. Once you've done an initial application, you just spritz it on, spray it off, and then dry the car as you would normally. Something worth investing in if you haven't already got is one of these pump sprayers. Now these are great for doing the pre-wash and any other chemicals you want to spray evenly around the car. 3 or 4 quid. Does a fantastic job, well worth having a look. I'll put a few links to these products in the description if you're wanting to find them yourself. And I suppose the last thing to mention is the drying cloth itself. Again, microfiber towels. I don't use chamois leathers anymore. They died in the 90s. So we are now moving on to what the modern technologies are. So taking the concentrated Bilberry Wheel Cleaner and filling up the bottle to about maybe 10% or so, giving it a good old squirt of water and making a mess and a little volcano. Fantastic. So the idea here is to liberally spray that all over the wheel. Let it sit there. Let it dwell, let the chemicals do the hard work so you don't have to. Now this is not one of those fancy it turns purple when it detects iron. It's basically just a good old fashioned detergent. It smells lovely, so get it on there and let it to sit. So I'm doing the front and back wheels and a bit of a gratuitous slow motion close up. So next up I take a bit of concentrate of the snow foam. Anyone will do, no particular brand. And a quick squirt of water till I've got a nice soapy solution. And I'm basically working my way around each of the spokes, typically making sure I go around the rim for a couple of laps and then go after the tyre walls and make sure they've had a good old scrub as well. Take that, wheel lug holes, and then I'll give the caliper a wipe over as well, just to make sure we're lifting all of that brake dust off. Alfa Romeo. And while I've got a nice soapy brush, I'm going to go after the exhaust tips, having previously given them a polish. Not too much love required to get them looking good again. I'm also going to have a go at scrubbing the rear bumper and diffuser. Okay, so I've got my Bilt Hamber Touchless here. I've filled this up probably 3/4 of the way with hot water, and now I'm just going to put a couple of drops of this in. You can really be quite sparing. We're not talking about litres of product here. So the trick is really just to get that onto the car as evenly as you can. It's really wonderful stuff. Just making sure you get into all the recesses, letting that pre-wash work its magic. Also gets rid of the need to use that 2-bucket method. Later on you can get away with a single wash mitt and a bucket. Absolutely fine for the home user. And just giving that front grille a bit of love. So this is the easy bit. We just leave the car to dwell for sort of 5 minutes, get the pressure washer out, and we're ready to take off all the road film. Lovely stuff. So before hitting it with the high pressure, just to help move that pre-wash around a little bit, I'm just soaking the car out at a low pressure, and then I go in with the high pressure stuff. So first concentrating on the wheels and the calipers, making sure to get as much of that brake dust and dirt off as possible. You don't really want to leave any detergent on there, so make sure you get into the wheel arches as well. and make sure you're getting all the grit and mud off that. Exactly the same process on the rears, and a lovely bit of flow visualization. Now the rear of the car, paying good attention to the areas around the badges, all the nooks and crannies, and in that diffuser area. Next up, filling a bucket with some nice hot water as a treat for the hands in this cold UK weather, and taking my favourite car shampoo. Now I've been using this for over 20 years, believe it or not. This Meguiars NXT has done a cracking job on all my cars. Foaming it up, chucking in the mitt, and it's time to begin the contact wash. So starting off on the roof and working our way down to the windscreen and across the rest of the car. Important just to give the underside of the wipers a bit of love as well. Make sure you're getting any of the gritty, oily, road filmy stuff up. Got to take special care with this Alfa as well, in the area around the bonnet vents. Actually is a direct water trap straight into the engine bay, and it makes a right old mess. So just got to take care not to maybe direct the pressure washer at it too much. Just making sure to keep that wash mitt nicely lubricated, going over all the nooks and crannies in good detail, and then going after the lower parts of the car last, when you're most at risk, I guess, of picking up some grit or something that might scratch the rest of your paint. Now it's time to do a good hosing off. At this point the car's pretty much done, to be completely honest. Anything after this stage is really about perfecting the finish and making it last for as long as possible before the next wash. I'm loving this cold, windy winter's day. It's about 5 degrees outside. I'm getting quite a lot of the spray all over my face, and my arms are absolutely freezing. But my goodness, is it starting to look good. Now, Meguiars Ceramic Wax is one of those wonder products. You just mist it onto the paintwork, and then you use the pressure washer to take it off, and that is it. And it leaves behind a lovely hydrophobic film all over the surface. It's a little bit slippery, a little bit lubricious, but once you've given it a hose down, you'd never know it was there. Have a look at the leading edge of the wave passing along the car. You can almost see this milky residue, and that's that silicon dioxide which is bonding onto the paint and giving it some protection. Again, if it's a hot day, you really probably don't want that drying onto the car. You want to make sure you've washed as much of it off, and then you would just dry it as usual. So let's take a look at that water beading and sheeting behaviour. It's fantastic. So if you get a drop of dirt or mess on the car and it's wet, it all gets carried away, and the engineer loves that. Now rescuing that drying towel from inside the car. As I mentioned, not using chamois leathers anymore. These microfiber towels can hold a lot of water. They're also much less likely to scratch the paint because they're lifting the dirt up and away. Try not to use too much downward pressure when you're drying the car off, because again you risk putting damage into it. You can see with that ceramic coating that's been sprayed on, it's actually really easy to dry the thing off. So now moving on to the front grille and the lower splitter kind of area, and the rear badging. Got to make sure that looks nice and shiny. So there she is. So for finishing touches, we're now going around all the shuts and opening the doors and drying the car out so that it looks nice for the next time you get in and use it. Again, important to do this at the end of the wash, and you can chuck that towel after it's been used. Personally, I chuck them in the washing machine with a liquid detergent. They seem to come out pretty good after that. But again, just going around making sure you're not trapping any water in the seals. Let's pop the hood and have a look at the mess. So underneath the gorgeous woven carbon fibre bonnet, you can see those vents are really just dumping the entire contents of whatever's outside all over the engine bay. So just going to take some time with that towel right at the end of the wash to go and give everything a wipe over. Now, I've always been someone that's believed you can polish money into a car, and it's really important to take the time to look after it and detail it. It also gives you an opportunity to spot things that might be going wrong, a naughty oil leak, a leaking coolant pipe, and it also helps to keep the car in good nick when you come to sell it. And because it's the UK, just as I finish the job, the heavens have opened and we have water all over the car again. But thanks to the fantastic ceramic protection coming from that Meguiars wax, I don't have to worry. It will bead up, it will run off as soon as I start driving the car. So yeah, well worth doing it if you can. It's a really good option for the winter, especially, you know, this time of year. It's going to get dirty again in 5 minutes, isn't it? But the wax just gives you a little bit longer on all the smooth panels. So thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. But for now, engineer out.